After a recent football camp in Boston, the recruiting website Rivals.com entered 2 new prospects into their huge database. Nothing too unusual, right? Well, it wouldn't be, except for the 2 prospects are only 12 years old. I understand that there's a growing interest in football these days, especially in the recruiting process. But why this early? They have 6 years of junior high and high school football before they get the chance to go to college. Yes, in Europe, they send kids that are even younger to soccer academies. But let's remember, soccer and football are very, very different. The best soccer player in the world, Lionel Messi, is 5'7", 148 pounds, smaller than every player that plays football for the Huskers. You have to be physically mature to play football. You got to be a grown man. The NFL doesn't let you enter the league until you have 3 years of college football experience. For reference, these 2 kids wouldn't have the chance to enter the NFL until year 2025. Another thing is lots of kids peak around junior high. For me personally, I was the same height when I was in 7th grade as I am now. I never grew another inch. On the contrary, NBA superstar Anthony Davis grew 7 inches before his senior year of high school. Point being, this stuff is impossible to predict. Why try this early on? Other naysayers will say that since these kids are already on these schools' radars, of course they should be put on Rivals.com. I just don't think that's the case. Around 75,000 football prospects are evaluated each year. If college football coaches got that far ahead, they judged nearly 500,000 kids before they got the chance to judge these 2 talented 6th graders. What harm would it do for a place like Rivals just wait until, I don't know, these kids are in the 9th or 10th grade? Save these teenagers from all the unwanted scrutiny and actually give them a chance to succeed. If these kids are all that talented, they're going to get tons of attention anyway. Until that happens, can we please just let them be kids? Let's allow them to go to the SpongeBob movie on Friday night without some crazy Alabama fan convincing them to go play for the Tide. We already worship high school and college sports too much in our society. Let's not worship 6th grade midget football as well. Many kids across the country will send Santa a list over the next few weeks trying to get their pick of toys on Christmas morning. For 2 Wisconsin toddlers, a list simply wasn't good enough as they wanted to get a hold of St. Nick directly. So they tried calling the only number they knew, 911, hoping that they could connect with the big guy from the North Pole himself. Instead, they got the police to show up to their doorstep and told the children that they should just try to visit Santa in person instead. Well, it was in 2006, like you said, against Ben Nelson, who was the incumbent. Ricketts spent $11 million of his own money. He spent more nationally than any other Senate race by himself, and he still lost by 28 percentage points. So he kind of had to redo things when he ran for governor, spent less money. He also vowed this time to go across Nebraska more, as he spent most of his time in Omaha in 06. Athletic director Sean Eichhorst is known for doing things behind the scenes, and this coaching search has gone to further prove that notion. The only thing we know, according to footballscoop.com, Eichhorst has one specific candidate in mind, and that candidate is being zeroed in on. Most people expect a new coach to be announced sometime early next week. You know, debates, it's always one side or the other will say their side won, the other side won. At one point, Hasselbrook said, "I don't know," as his first answer to a question. Ricketts kept kind of repeating the same things. Things got kind of contentious at times. I would give it a draw, but like I said, each side will say their side won. Big Red have a giant test tonight as the 9th-ranked Duke Blue Devils march into the Pinnacle Bank Arena. The Cornhuskers, who are rated number 12 in the country, have not been beaten once this season, but also haven't played any ranked teams. Therefore, this game should prove to be a difficult early season test for the Lady Huskers.
Nearly every student I talked to said now that they don't have to buy albums, they have more money to spend on live shows. People who run Pinnacle Bank Arena behind me put on over a dozen concerts each year. Certainly are no critics of Spotify. One common misconception about Pete Ricketts among Nebraskans is that he was born and raised a rich kid. The fact is the Ricketts family was middle class for pretty much all of Ricketts' childhood. For example, when Pete wanted a bicycle, he couldn't just go ask his mom and dad for money. He had to get a paper route and buy the bike himself. One thing is for certain, if Ricketts does win, he will reside here with his family in the Nebraska's governor's mansion, which is certainly anything but middle class. For Star City News, I'm John Kipper.
Ray Lewis, and even Matthew McConaughey are just 3 celebrities that have been called on to give their favorite teams a little fire before big games. Well, Coach Tim Miles is now employing that strategy as he called upon Bud Crawford to give the basketball team a boost before the top squad in the Big Ten, Wisconsin, comes to town. Crawford, an Omaha native, is undefeated and is the World Boxing Organization lightweight champion. Miles felt like the team has been a little stagnant over the past few games, and he wanted to bring in a different voice to inspire the team. And yes, to help motivate the team, he brought his lightweight title belt with him, and of course, Tim Miles tweeted about it. The Huskers are certainly going to need some motivation this evening since the 5th-ranked Badgers have won 6 straight and dismantled the Huskers earlier this year in Madison, 70-55. They're led by 6'11" Frank Kaminsky, who is not only in the running for NCAA Player of the Year, but he also could be the #1 pick in this year's NBA draft. He had 22 points when the two teams faced off earlier this season. The Huskers desperately need this one if they hope to stay in the NCAA tournament conversation, since they'll likely need 6 of their last 7 games just to make a compelling case for the big dance. The Huskers have been pretty tough to beat at home lately, as they've won 5 in a row at Pinnacle Bank Arena. The game tonight is at 8 p.m. and Tim Miles has called for a whiteout. Therefore, he wants Husker Nation to wear nothing but white shirts tonight. The Husker softball team exploded offensively this past weekend in Las Cruces, New Mexico, scoring 55 runs in only 5 games. They went 4-1 in that 5-game span. Those 4 wins got Coach Rhonda Revelle that much closer to her landmark 850th win at Nebraska. Revelle is the longest tenured head coach at NU, as she has been with the program since 1993. During her time there, she has been conference coach 4 times. She's also been inducted into the Collegiate Softball Hall of Fame. It's not going to be easy, though, since they need 3 victories, and the Huskers travel to Tallahassee, Florida this weekend, and they'll play Florida State 2 times. Florida State is ranked 5th in the country. That's going to do it for me for sports. I'm going to throw it back to the anchor desk, Aimsley and Michael.
Many Lincolnites use the downtown bike lanes and sidewalks every day. The problem is that they're potentially dangerous for bicyclists and pedestrians. That should change as the City Council approved a multi-million-dollar project that will build a 17-block bikeway down N Street. Karen Griffin, president of the Great Plains Trails Association, thinks these bike lanes are a huge addition for Lincoln.
This is the way of the future. Other cities across the country are building these kinds of protected bikeways. Even Omaha's looking at them, but we're ahead right now. In Nebraska, this will be the first one.
The 2-way bike lanes are going to be protected with a guardrail, stoplights, and will be to the side of the street. Some cyclists, including UNL student Everett Ritterboss, doesn't think these extra amenities are worth the higher costs.
It would probably be better, well spent, to have it in the middle. 14th Street, the one on 14th Street is fine, works. I've never had a problem with that, and we don't have any stoplights or stop signs or anything like that, so probably could be better spent elsewhere.
The new bike lanes may only be the start, as City Councilman Carl Eskridge would like to see more downtown.
I've seen near accidents involving buses and bikes, cars and bikes. With those arrangements, I would expect, and there's been some talk about 14th Street may be the next one that would happen.
There's one city councilman that decided not to vote for the funding. That would be Councilman John Camp. He thought it was just an unnecessary expense and that the project could be done much cheaper. I asked Councilman Eskridge about this. He said this is just a typical tactic John Camp uses, and then he really didn't have an actual plan and was just blowing smoke. Reporting for Star City News, I'm John Kipper. Yeah, guys, there were 2 small fires at Lincoln High School today. The first one being a small one inside the bathroom. The second one was a little bit bigger as a wrestling mat got set on fire right through these doors behind me. According to LPS Director of Security Joseph Wright, that was enough for school to be canceled today as there was just too much smoke.
The mat put off enough smoke. It's very acrid, disturbing smoke. We tried to vent the building right away, but with as long as it would take to vent the building effectively with the type of weather we have with the kids outside, it's just a lot better option to call school for the day.
It was a very chaotic scene at Lincoln High School this morning as students had to hustle out of the building and wait outside for word on what to do next. Meanwhile, firefighters were making sure the fire was contained, and along with the police, an investigation was started on how the 2 fires ignited. Thankfully, nobody in the school was injured.
It's localized right to the mat. School employees got the mat out right away, but that still caused enough smoke where the smoke got through the rest of the building.
The first fire that was in the morning started inside a bathroom trash can and didn't cause enough smoke to really affect the school day. The problem is, only an hour later, the wrestling mat caught a flame, causing the students to have the rest of their Thursday off. Wright also told me that because both fires started on the same day, there is a likely connection between the bathroom fire and the wrestling mat fire. Reporting for Star City News, I'm John Kipper.